In some ways, we're all experts about school. After all, we went to school for years. By the time we finished high school, we had at least 30 or 40 teachers. So maybe we're experts there too. Or maybe not. Let's put your expertise to the test. How much do you know about teachers? I've asked two experts to help me with my quiz. Barnett Berry is president of the Center for Teaching Quality in Carrboro, North Carolina. David Steiner, a former New York State Commissioner of Education, is now Dean of the School of Education at Hunter College in New York City. Here's your first question. What percentage of Americans are public school teachers? Is it A, 1 out of 100, B, 1 out of 500, or C, 1 out of 1,000? The answer is A. 1 out of every 100 Americans is a public school teacher. We have 3.2 million teachers, and the population of the United States is roughly 312 million. Used to be, if you wanted to be a teacher, you spent 4 years attending a college of education. Today, most teachers still take that route at about 1,400 colleges and schools of education. But now there are shortcuts to becoming a teacher. Programs like Teach for America, which gives college graduates just 5 weeks of summer training before placing them in schools. So, 1,400 traditional places, but how many alternate pathways are there? Is it 100, 300, or 600?
About 600 non-traditional programs, but some of those non-traditional programs are being offered by universities now.
Around 49,000 people complete non-traditional programs every year. Some even attend online.
You can become a teacher as quickly as probably 5-6 days, and you can become a teacher, it takes as long as 2 or 3 years.
5 or 6 days?
Absolutely. There are programs out there that get you in almost immediately.
You got to tell me more. I don't believe you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We still have these things called emergency waivers for teachers to enter a classroom. I mean, there are substitute teachers who enter classrooms with a little bit of training, maybe a college degree, yes, a college degree, but not much else.
Does the type of training that a person receives predict what kind of teacher he or she will be?
It does predict whether or not they're going to stay in the profession long enough to get good at it. We do know that teachers who have more extensive preparation, especially in the content in which they're going to teach, no surprise, and have internships in the context in which they're going to teach, are more likely to stay in the profession, and then they're more likely to get better as a result of that.
Traditional and alternative training programs produce about 235,000 new teachers every year. So what happens to these new teachers? How many new teachers leave the profession in the first 5 years? Is it 5%, 10%, 25%, or 50%?
Depends on the location. In the inner cities, it's D. It's 50 to 55% tragically for various reasons. In suburban areas, it'll be a lower figure than that. So again, it's geographically dependent.
Why do so many teachers leave within the first 5 years?
2 simple reasons. 1, they're not very well prepared for the challenges that they're facing, and 2, they're not very well supported once they get there on the job.
So with all these people leaving teaching, it stands to reason there must be a lot of former teachers out there. Which of these men and women used to teach? Lyndon Johnson, Sting, Alexander Graham Bell, Sheryl Crow, Robert Frost, Geraldine Ferraro. The answer is all of them. In public schools, students are pretty much equally divided, half boys, half girls. What about teachers? What percentage are women? Is it 54%, 60%, or 76%? The answer is C. 76% of teachers are women.
What does the reminder do?
About 40% of students are minorities. What percentage of teachers are minorities? Is it 35%, 25%, or 17%? The answer is C, 17%. And that hasn't changed much. 10 years ago, it was 16%. Okay, let's talk about money. 40 years ago, the average teacher's salary, adjusted for inflation, was $49,000 a year. What's the average teacher's salary today? Is it $55,000 a year, $65,000, or $69,000? The answer is A. That, by the way, is a raise of $150 a year for 40 years. The lowest teacher salaries are in Montana, the highest in New York State. Do many teachers have part-time jobs?
Absolutely. Over the last 30 or 40 years, about half the teachers in this country have some type of employment. The younger the teacher, the more likely they're going to do the moonlighting in order to make ends meet. And of course, what those young teachers ought to be doing in time outside the classroom is improving their teaching, not serving hamburgers at Applebee's.
So what determines how much a teacher is paid? Is it how many classes she teaches, how many years she's been teaching, number of college credits, or how her students do? The answer is B and C, years of teaching, number of college credits, but that's changing.
Teachers are now beginning to be judged on how well their kids are learning, and that is a very positive trend. The problem is the system is not designed to assemble this type of evidence.
Can teachers be fired today if their students do poorly on standardized tests?
They can be, the way the systems are unfolding. We've seen it in Houston in particular. We've seen it in other school districts that have been using test scores as a way to judge teachers. And I'm afraid some teachers are going to be unfairly fired because some of these test scores and these value-added ratings that are being deployed to judge teachers are not always accurate. In fact, statisticians will say that in 1 in 4 cases, a teacher who is deemed effective is actually ineffective, and vice versa.
The important point here is that we have enormous talent that we lose for the wrong reason. We've been very focused on removing teachers who may not be up to the job, and it's very important, as in any profession. But I think we should be much more concerned about something we don't talk about, which is losing our best teachers.
Today, 24 states tie teacher evaluation to student test scores. So here's your final question. What percentage of adult Americans say they'd be happy if their child decided to become a teacher? Is it 39%, 48%, or 67%? The answer is C. 2/3 of adult Americans say they'd be happy if their child became a teacher. So, how'd you do on the test? If you did well, maybe you should thank a teacher.